Ilhan Omar, I mentioned it when we opened the show, is out there not apologizing for what happened in her community that she represents, that built all of us out of billions of dollars, but instead talking about how Stephen Miller is a Nazi. Here she is in SOT 3.
I want to ask you about something else that the architect of the president's immigration policy, Stephen Miller, said.
On CBS.
On Thanksgiving Day, he posted, "No magic transformation occurs when failed states cross borders. At scale, migrants and their descendants recreate the conditions and terrors of their broken homelands." What do you make of this argument of failure to assimilate and sort of ruining America? How do you understand this?
I mean, when I think about Stephen Miller and his white supremacist rhetoric, it reminds me of the way the Nazis described Jewish people in Germany.
Margaret Brennan
reminds me
was
of the
fine
way
with
that you describe Jewish people. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Listen,
she's like, okay.
She's full. She's as full of ethnic hatred. She's as full of group hatred as anyone I've ever seen. I guess you would know it in others, or maybe she's projecting. What these people want us to believe about our leadership is very simple: that they are motivated by deep, visceral, mythological hatred rather than very obvious human motives, like "give me back my stuff," or "don't ruin my neighborhood," or "don't burn down my city."
Don't steal from me.
Right. You don't have in science, you don't have to look for the cause that's so remote, it's out among the stars. You can look at the thing that's in front of you, which is a city full of crime, full of crime that didn't used to exist, full of neighborhoods that still haven't been rebuilt after the George Floyd riots, a city where people are afraid to go downtown to the giant corporate ballparks that they had to pay for partly with their tax money, but are now too unsafe to visit. Racism, Nazism, you're going to end up giving those things a good name, because if young people think that not wanting to be hurt, not wanting to be robbed, not wanting to have all your money taken, not wanting this kind of social disorder is Nazism, then they'll end up embracing it, frankly. The problem here is that name calling as a response to massive destruction in the tens of billions of dollars and in crime statistics and everything, why are we still allowing it? Why are we stealing?
Right.
Why is a network person still allowing the conversation to be about that?
That's right, Margaret. Margaret Brennan sat there and let her smear Stephen Miller as a white supremacist.
She set her up for
as though it were a fact, because clearly she agrees.
Yeah.
I don't really give a shit whether Margaret Brennan agrees or not. Her job, when he is not there, is to push back on that kind of rhetoric, or you get sued. At a bare minimum, it is unfair and unethical to allow. But she did it because I guarantee you she agrees with it. This is why we played this soundbite at the time. So Stephen Miller's wife is named Katie Miller, and she's a podcaster, and she was on Doge, and she has been making the rounds recently on CNN and other platforms, trying out some punditry spots. And sometimes it devolves into arguments about her husband. And that happened when she went on CNN's Abby Phillips show, because Abby Phillip she both hosts this hateful woman named Jennifer Welsh, and she went on Jennifer Welsh's hateful leftist podcast and had absolutely no problem sitting across from Jennifer Welsh and listening to her say the same things about Stephen Miller. She didn't flutter an eyelash. Abby Phillip wasn't moved by it. I guarantee you she agreed with it. And then she tried to talk to Katie Miller and others on her panel about language and what's proper language. And Katie Miller was not going to stand for that, having been the one who lives with Stephen Miller and has to literally deal with the fallout from this kind of rhetoric about him being used everywhere on leftist TV. Here's the following exchange.
Wait, you have Jennifer Welch on your show very often, and you've never pushed back as she has called my husband a white nationalist.
Hold on.
That is no
Katie.
different than Nick Fuentes going on Tucker Carlson's show. It's not, and you should admit it.
Well, hold on. Wait, hold on. How is it anything similar?
It's not remotely similar at all. Nick Fuentes sits around and says that he likes Hitler. How is that
what does
similar
Katie have to do with it? What does she have to do with it? She has nothing to do with it. Literally nothing.
Scott, Katie is the person who just said to me that it is comparable to say that Nick Fuentes, who is literally a neo-Nazi, is the same as somebody, a liberal, who has an opinion who is not a neo-Nazi. They are not
a hateful opinion.
The same.
How do you want? Excuse me. Let's go back to this point one more time.
But
Nick
Katie,
Fuentes can espouse an opinion on Tucker Carlson's show,
it is not
and
the same
he didn't push
thing.
back the same way you didn't
Katie,
push back when someone called someone in my family
hold
a
on
Nazi.
a second.
It's not different.
Hold on a second.
It's not.
If someone comes on this show and says, I love Hitler and I admire what he did, they would never, first of all, I would never invite them on the show and they would never be invited back. So those two things are not
But yet you've gone on Jennifer Wilson's podcast. It's the same thing.
Here's what's amazing. So Abby Phillip doesn't understand. She's upset. She doesn't like the anti-Semitic views of Nick Fuentes finding any sort of airtime.
Right.
But it's fine for her to platform and promote by going on the show of a woman who's spewing anti-Semitic rhetoric about an American Jew, calling him a Nazi and a white supremacist. Hello, his people were the ones killed by the Nazis, merely because he's enforcing the border, because he's the architect of Trump's border enforcement programs, which now even the New York Times has to admit were necessary thanks to Joe Biden. That's because Abby Phillip and Margaret Brennan, both of them, Walter, both of them agree about Stephen Miller, and they want those things said.
Of course they do, which makes them Hitler. In fact, my whole life, 63 years old, I have studied World War II. It hadn't ended that long before I was born. We still had TV shows, Hogan's Heroes and so on, when I was a kid. You know, we made models of the battleship.
Loved it.
Battleships and the airplanes. We're still talking about it. I've almost forgotten who Hitler was. I've almost forgotten what Nazi Germany was. These people arguing here, I promise you, if you ask them what the major battle of the last part of the war was that caused Hitler to lose, they have no freaking idea. This is just a language game and a show business game that's being used. And these words have lost all meaning. Nobody knows what Hitler looks like anymore. If he hadn't had a mustache, he would have disappeared completely in their minds. And the conversion of real life issues into language games and debates about hatred is the greatest trick ever to get people not look at the fact that their ship is sinking and the water is up around their neck and they're still arguing about Hitler. It's a complete device by which we no longer look at reality and we just find the like-minded people who, like you say, are going to have the right attitudes. Megyn, I don't know where they find these people. How do they all end up getting network news shows? I mean,
I know that's how. That's how.
Really?
I mean, what's amazing is Margaret Brennan could have asked Ilhan Omar that question in any one of a number of ways. She could have said, do you admit there's a problem with assimilation with many of these Somalis who come over here? And can you understand the anger that American-born natives may have to opening their doors and their communities to millions of Somalis, only to find out that the vast, vast majority of those committing the fraud are Somalis? Do you understand that?
But I'm gonna
why not give her that question?
Well, she should have, obviously. But even more than that, coming from Minnesota, I can tell you, assimilation isn't even the problem here. Like I say, the Hmong people have not assimilated all that well, in the sense that they're not all speaking the language and out there, you know, doing all the all-American stuff. But people don't hate them, because what they hate isn't people who haven't assimilated. Do that on your own schedule. We like it when you do. It's convenient, and I think it shows respect for your country. But what we really hate is when you take all our frickin' money, using our heartstrings and our care about autistic children and things like that, and you turn it into giant dumpster loads of $100 bills that you take to your headquarters and distribute as baksheesh to the loyal party members and then ship abroad. We really hate being stolen.
Possibly to Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group.
Don't turn
yes,
it
we
into
hate that.
assimilation.
And we all, but the problem with most in the influx of Islamic communities is that they don't want to just do their own thing. I do have a problem with non-assimilation, but let's just say that that's what they were doing, non-assimilation. Okay, that'd be not great in my view, but nowhere near the problem that they want us to assimilate to their values. And as Trump once said, largely they come from shithole countries like Somalia, and we have zero desire to change anything about America to look more like Somalia. It's a no. We're not going to dress like the women who are part of your group. We're not going to accede to the non-separation of church and state. We're sick of the 5-time-a-day call to prayer starting at 3 a.m, where we have to listen to people shouting Allahu Akbar, because many of us associate that with the worst terrorist attack to ever happen on domestic soil, 9/11. So it's a no on us assimilating to you. Right. If you want to be surrounded by a bunch of Somalias, go home.
Ever read the label on a typical bag of chips? It's often a science experiment of seed oils, MSG, artificial dyes, and mystery ingredients. Masa is part of the growing movement to bring back real food. Masa chips contain just 3 ingredients: organic corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Not only do these chips avoid the bad stuff, they also taste delicious, too. Snacking on Masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With Masa, you feel satisfied, light, and energetic with no crash and no bloat. And if you love Masa, then you will love Vandy Crisps. Vandy, which is Masa's sister company, makes the most delicious 3-ingredient potato chips, too. Ready to give Masa or Vandy a try? Use code MK for 25% off your first order at masachips.com or vandycrisps.com, or simply click the link in the video description or scan the QR code to claim this delicious offer. Don't feel like ordering online? Masa and Vandy are now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick a couple of bags up before they're all gone.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.